Hi, welcome to episode 262 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun yarns, and we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come over and joined us, please do. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, January 20th. It is about noon my time, which is Central Standard Time. I am coming to you from just outside Kansas City in Kansas, the Midwest. It is a freezing day here. We are down into the single digits, and rumor has it we might be getting a little snow in the next couple days. It is a partial holiday in the U.S. Not everyone gets it off, but it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and actually my husband is home, and one of my friends has it off, so I am trying to speed through everything I can get done this morning so that I can take the rest of the afternoon off. So I have the podcast with you, and then I have one more work meeting, and then hopefully I can take a little time off and craft and just enjoy a quiet day. So, how are you? I hope that your crafting is going well, that you have had a lovely weekend and are set up for a great week ahead. Whether you are where it's hot or where it's cold, I hope that you're having fun making things. I guess I don't have too much to report. Last week, a bit of administrative stuff. We currently have the Selfish Craft Along going on over in the Ravelry group. That is craft something for yourself in the month of January. Crafting is loose. It can be knit, crochet, spinning, weaving, sewing. We already have a lot of wonderful projects in there. I will be leaving that thread open till the 31st or the 1st of February. Technically, the deadline is you must be done by the 31st. The only couple rules that I have are that it has to be for yourself and it has to be something that was less than 50% done as of January 1st. Everything else, please do craft for yourself, share photos, enjoy it, and there will be a few prizes. Second administrative note, I will actually be traveling next week. I will be working a conference from Saturday through the following Thursday. So I leave on the 24th, I return on the 30th. I do not believe I will be podcasting next week just because it will be too difficult with travel. I don't know how much knitting I'll get done because I am attending a conference and I am working in a booth. So I'm going to be on my feet most of the day. So I just don't know what my crafting is going to be like or my time is going to be like. But I am going to say no podcast for next week, so I will see you again in 2 weeks, which is Monday, February 3rd. So, let's move on to the podcast. Today I am drinking Inspiration, which is a tea from Adagio. It was inspired by Critical Role, and my husband got me this set last year, and I'm still working my way through it because it was, I think, 12 different teas. So Inspiration is a blend for bards, passion fruit, vanilla oolong, and ginger. And I like this one. It's very pretty, and it's got some, it's actually got some sugar sprinkles in it, which you can't see that well. Maybe you can, just those bright little spots of color. I've got a variety of teas. Almost all of them are totally up my alley. There were one or two that weren't quite in the set of 12. So Adagio allows people to build their own teas and teas for fandoms, like Critical Role, which is a Dungeons & Dragons game. I will say that I haven't always been 100% pleased with the way Adagio has conducted itself in the past. So at this point, I'm not continually supporting them, but I do have the teas, and so I am drinking them. And I do enjoy a variety of their teas, so I am sorry to not be buying right now, but we'll just have to see. I am drinking that today in my Hoops and Yo-Yo mug. Hoops and Yo-Yo, of course, the lovable characters from Hallmark, which is located here in Kansas City. So that's the plan for today. That is delicious, and a little caffeine there. That will probably get me through my meeting. So let's talk about what I have been knitting this week. I have a finish this week, which is kind of fun. It's a small finish, but a finish nonetheless. These are the socks that I am knitting for Roxy for Valentine's Day. The yarn is Knitterly Things Vesper. It is her old base, which is 100% superwash merino, and I do not know the colorway because the tag got separated and I have not seen any others that look exactly like this. I will have to do more of a troll through Ravelry and see if I can find this colorway. It is a 5-striper with royal blue, red, green, purple, and a teal or kind of turquoise. And I just did basic vanilla socks with a heel flap and gusset for Miss Roxy, who is 6 this year. As I've mentioned before, somehow I got in the habit of doing things for the kids for Valentine's Day. Some years I knit little hearts. The last couple of years I have knit socks, and since I did not get to knit them as many socks at Christmas as usual, and February in Chicago is still quite cold, really she probably won't stop wearing wool socks until close to April, I decided that I would get these set up for her. These took 37 grams, which is about 150 yards. And I have about 40 grams remaining, so I have plenty to do a pair of socks for Miles. So he is next on my list, and I think that will be perfect travel knitting. So I am just going to put these aside for Miss Roxy and continue on my second pair for Mr. Miles on my flights and various points next week. I think socks are perfect travel projects because they are pretty easy to pick up and put down, particularly when you're doing vanilla sock recipes. So that is one project done. I believe that's my second FO of the year, but I am pleased to have that finished and in plenty of time for Valentine's Day. So the second project that I'm working on is a sample knit. I talked about this last week. I am knitting the Jody shawl, or I think it's just called Jody. It is a shawl by Joji Locatelli. And I don't think I have a picture because I think I didn't print the picture. I just printed the pattern in the charts to save on printer paper. It is a 3-color shawl in DK weight, and it was designed by Joji Locatelli. And the name Jody is for Jody of the Grocery Girls. They are all friends, and she designed the shawl with Jody in mind. It is a 3-color DK weight shawl, mostly garter stitch with some lace edging, and it works through 3 colors in kind of a gradient or a fade. I am using Zen Yarn Garden Superfine DK, which is their 100% superwash merino in skeins that come in 250 yards and call for a US 4 to 6 needle. This is Zen Yarn Garden. You know them. I knit with them all the time because they are one of my biggest sample knitting clients right now. The shawl is going to be in 3 colors, the first of which I have finished. This was the Ocean Floor colorway, which is kind of a nice dusty pale blue. This color is meant to complement and contrast the Icelandic Icelandic painting colorway, and this is blues and purples, and I am about halfway through knitting with this one, and I'm getting really close to adding my 3rd skein, which is this espresso colorway. So these are the 3 colors for my shawl, and what I have at this point looks like this. So as I said, it is a garter shawl, it is a crescent shape, and then I have done the fade section into the middle color, so I've completely finished using the first color. I have a few more rows in the second color, and then I will start working the lace border chart and working in my 3rd color. So I would say I have approximately half the knitting done, and I really think that these 2 colors complement and contrast each other nicely. I mean, it is fairly clear where I changed colors in to see the fading, but they also, this color also has that light blue. It does not actually have any of the espresso in it, but I think it will be a nice dark contrast at the border and will show off some of the simple lace patterns nicely. My hope is to finish this shawl this week, which should not be a problem, or I should say finish this shawl before I leave on Saturday. I don't believe that will be a problem because this is my primary focus this week. I would like to finish this and set it up to block before I leave so I can return it to her when I return, and so I can move on. I have a couple samples heading my way for February, and I have some other things I would like to work on if I have any extra time. So I am hoping to crank this out this week, but since I did basically the first half of the shawl this week, I feel like I should be able to get the second half of the shawl done this next week. Total will be about 660 yards of DK weight. So this should be a nice piece, and I know that they will be doing kits for this if the colors interest you, and this would be a really nice weight shawl for winter and spring because it's just a little heavier done in that DK weight. So that is what I am working on. So that brings me to what I am going to take with me on my trip. As I mentioned, I am definitely going to take Miles socks. I think I'm also going to take my Christmas socks, which were a pattern from the Grocery Girls Coffee Talk by Tracy Millers, and in the Stranded Dye Works Christmas colorway this year, which was Gingerbread House. And so my hope is that I will be able to finish Miles socks and maybe finish my socks as well. That would be like awesome because I would have 2 more finished objects for the month, so that would be great. And I love cleaning up whips off the needles. I'd have the kids' socks done for Valentine's Day. Would be just perfect. I will, however, be taking a third project with me because, you know, I can't worry about running out of yarn. Incidentally, the trade show that I am working is for a yarn dyer, but it is not specifically a yarn trade show. So I don't think there will be availability of yarn for me there. Which is why I need to make sure and pack my own. I will also be working with Zen Yarn Garden yarns, but this one is actually not for a sample. This one is a shawl that I have been wanting to knit for a while, and this was a blank. I have knit samples for Zen Yarn Garden over the last couple of years, sometimes for money and sometimes in exchange for yarn. And in this case, I got one of their Luxe. So their Luxe blanks that I used to talk about are also the same as their Luxe cakes. They started selling them in blanks. So this is their Serenity Silk Plus, which is their superwash merino cashmere nylon. I most recently knit the Razzle Dazzle shawl out of that. And what they used to do is they used to dye them in blank form. And now what they have done is they are winding them up into cakes so you can see the gradient more clearly. And so a lot of people didn't enjoy necessarily knitting from the blank. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me in the least. Yes, the yarn is a little bit, it looks a little bit like ramen as it comes off the blank, but that doesn't bother me at all. This one I just fell in love with. It's called In the Grove, and it's a teal that fades into a chocolate brown and back out to a teal. And this year I am trying to work through patterns that are in my queue. I'm really kind of doing a stash down and patterns that I either own or patterns that have been in my queue forever. And what I am going to knit is called Close to You. It is a pattern by Justina Lorkowska, who is Letty's Knits on Instagram, and she has a variety of wonderful patterns. This is kind of a simple shawlette. It was designed to be knit with basically a single skein of fingering weight, so just a precious skein that you had in the stash. I always really like big shawls. I usually find that a shawlette with 1 skein of yarn is not quite enough for me, and because these are basically supersized skeins, it is 150 grams, 750 yards. I'm just going to supersize that shawl. I believe it is basically worked side to side and modular, so I can basically work it as long as I want. The pattern does say it's customizable for any length of yarn. So that I'm going to be taking with me and working on. And I am super, super excited about that, and can't wait to show you that when I return. I will say that that will probably get put aside for sample projects, but it is something I have wanted to start, so I don't mind starting it and picking it up and putting it down over the next few months. Why I chose this project instead of picking up a whip that is already on the needles. I am working for Zen Yarn Garden in their booth at this trade show, and so I wanted to be working on something in their yarns because I felt like that was sort of the best way to showcase them. So that's why I picked this one, and of course I have a bunch of Zen Yarn Garden in my stash because, like I said, a bunch of the first few samples I knit for them were in their yarns. So yes, I'm working in their yarn again. I realize the podcast has been somewhat one note, but I am enjoying working with their yarns, and I am looking forward to having another pattern out of the queue, skein out of the stash, and a beautiful piece to wear. I haven't decided at this point whether I am for the process or the product in general. I think I am a product knitter. I like to have the end product and the sense of accomplishment at checking something off my list. But that said, I do also really like to wear the garment, and I do find I do enjoy the process of knitting. It's not like it's a chore to knit. So that's my next project on the needles. And so 2 pairs of socks and a shawl, that should get me through 6 days away from home, I hope. Okay, in crochet news, I have added to the blanket. I'm sure you guys are going to get sick of seeing this blanket, but I do keep adding to it. I am up to 22 color stripes. I cannot remember exactly. I think it's something like 108 color stripes or 118. So I still have a ways to go, but I am pleased with my progress thus far. This one will not be coming to Vegas with me, so I'm hoping to maybe double up on stripes on a few days this week. We'll just see how that goes with my shawl knitting plans. But I'm hoping to work on it a little bit. I am moving up into, well, I'm still in the same colors, but I'm definitely working on an autumn color palette. So this is the Woodland Crochet Along. It is a pattern by Lucy of Attic 24. I've spoken about this in the past. It's a ripple pattern that basically it's a 2-row repeat. And so basically you do one thing on row 1 and one thing on row 2, and you do rows 1 and 2 for each color, and then you move on to the next color. As you can see, my ends I started by weaving in ends. I haven't done it in a while, so maybe I'll do that this evening because my ends are getting a little unwieldy, and this one will have a bazillion ends. Okay, whatever double the 2 ends for every colorway, so whatever double every colorway is, but it will get unwieldy, so I would like to kind of keep up with them as I go along, and if I do that roughly once a week, I think I'm probably in good shape. So this is where I am on my crochet. So let's talk about the spinning. I actually have been spinning as well, which is fabulous. I finished so I have been working with fiber from Hedgehog Fibers. This is, I'm entering this as my selfish craft along. I am doing a month of selfish spinning, which is spins that are going to be to keep for myself rather than to send out in the world. This was a mixed package of little bits and bobs of fiber called Itsy Bitsy Fibers by Hedgehog Fibers. I picked it up in an update several years ago. And so it was almost 9 ounces of fiber. It was 250 grams, which translates in my spinning to 8.8 ounces. And what I did is, for the most part, I sort of asked your opinion and then did a little bit of both. I was unsure whether to spin the little bits of fiber, which were approximately 1 ounce apiece, into, or a little less than 1 ounce, but somewhere around 3/4 of an ounce. I was trying to decide whether to spin them all as one big crazy colorful skein or as individual skeins, and for the most part you said spin them as one big crazy skein, and you won out. The one thing that I did do is I had 3 little bumps, or approximately 2 ounces, that were the same fiber, and I really liked them together, and I didn't think they went as well with the other colorways, and so I spun those by themselves. So those were kind of an autumn, it looked like it was on some kind of mixed wool because there were lights and darks in the wool itself even before it got dyed, and then it had blues and oranges and purples and reds, and so that spun up into 2 ounces of probably about 125 yards, 150 yards of probably a, between fingering and sport, it still may plump up in just these beautiful, yummy fall colorways. And so that is the first one that I have finished and plied and skeined off. It still needs a bath so I can get final measurements, but I'm really, really pleased that I left that one separate because it looked quite different from the rest of the skein. The rest of the skein, I have plied here, and actually I really need to pull it off for you to see all the different colors because there are actually some more brightly colored sections. However, what it translated to is I had a couple real bright bumps of fiber and then a lot of more muted fibers. There were also fibers that had stellina in them, so a little bit of sparkle, and that came out to be kind of peaches and blues and mauves and kind of coral sections and some really nice colors, but a little bit more muted. You can see there are a few sections that are a little bit brighter and also some that are a little bit lighter through here. I really just need to wind this off on the bobbin and wash it, and then I can show you. I just finished playing it at about 11 o'clock last night, so I just didn't have time yet. And I don't know if you can see some of the sparkle. You may or may not be able to see it here, but there is sparkle in approximately half the bumps. And how I spun this for maximum color is I went ahead and tore each of those bumps into several smaller bumps, or several smaller strips of fiber, and then I just tossed them in the air and picked them at random. I tried to alternate when I was using fiber with stellina in it and fiber without stellina in it, and for the most part I think I succeeded. It was an interesting spin because because I did it randomly, I didn't know how the colors would line up, and there are lots of sections where the colors did line up, but there are also plenty of sections where they did not. So this is going to be kind of a crazy stripy skein. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. I have been looking at patterns, but I haven't decided on anything in particular yet. So for now, this is just going to be yarn, and I will wind that off. This came out to be almost 7 ounces, like 6.8 ounces. So I will wind that off and see what I want to do with that. Which brings me to what I will spin this week. As I said, I will be traveling the 24th to the 30th. I'm not taking my wheel. Basically, I'm trying to travel as light as possible, which is why I'm taking 2 pairs of socks and a skein for a shawl, because I feel like that's 3 skeins of yarn and nothing too big in terms of packing. It won't take up a lot of room in my luggage. But I decided to pull out one more braid for a selfish spin. Hopefully I'll finish it by the end of January. If not, it will carry over into the first few days of February. But I was looking actually for some different fiber because I had picked out some fiber that I wanted to spin for a shawl. And I knew that there were 2 bumps that I wanted to spin for that shawl. However, I could not find one of those bumps, and I came across this one instead. So this one it is. It is winter, and there is nothing I love more than hand-spun socks in the winter. And so I found some fiber from the Fiber Club. It was this past September's colorway. It is Corriedale wool, and as you know, I love Corriedale for socks, so I hoard all of my Hello Yarn Corriedale for myself. And this is in the colorway Grumpy. Which I don't know if it was named after dwarves or because she was grumpy or what, but winter makes me grumpy, and this will make me happy. So this is a beautiful braid. It's got shades of browns and oranges, a little bit of that mint green that she loves, and some purple. And I have not exactly decided how to spin this. If I spin it 2-ply, I will get probably what is a sport weight, which is a great weight for socks. However, I'm actually fairly tempted to, given the way this braid is lined up, if I look at it kind of in its long color run state, I am actually super tempted to spin this as one long colorway and 2-ply. Chain ply. So what I am tempted to do is to break the fiber in half lengthwise, chain ply spin each half of the fiber straight through, and then chain ply it so that then I can have 2 semi-matching stripy socks. However, if I chain ply, I suspect that I will end up at more of a worsted weight, but I'm not necessarily sure that's a bad thing for winter socks. Having super thick winter socks that I can wear around the house would be just as lovely. So I think I may do that with this braid, and that's a slightly different spinning and plying method than I normally do for myself, so that will be a little bit of a challenge, but would also give me some socks to knit up selfishly in February, although I don't know that I'll actually have time in February because I have 2 big samples, a blanket and a sweater probably for February, and February is a short month, although this year I guess it's leap year. So that is what I am working on. So that is a 24-minute podcast, and I need to knock out a few more things on my list before my meeting at work. So I think I am going to say farewell for today. I hope that you are having a lovely time crafting no matter where you are in the world. Thank you so much for spending this time with me each week. Again, I will miss next week, but I will see you in 2 weeks, and I will say until then, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!